Stop scrolling for a moment, because this is not an accident. You are reading these words for a reason beyond what your eyes can see. Heaven has paused everything around you to deliver one message. This is your final summons. You have been running, questioning, doubting, but deep down you have always known you are different. There is something in your spirit that refuses to bow to the patterns of this world. You have been chosen, set apart, and anointed for a divine assignment that cannot wait another day. Everything you have been through, every betrayal, every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer has not been for nothing. It was preparation. It was heaven's training ground for the moment that has now arrived. You are standing in the exact second of history where eternity intersects with your obedience. There is no coincidence in your timing. Listen closely. The world may see your silence as weakness, but heaven sees it as the calm before your revelation. While others doubted your worth, angels recorded your endurance. You survived what was meant to destroy you because you were never meant to blend in. You were designed to break patterns, to shift atmospheres, to become a carrier of divine fire in a cold and dark generation. You have been marked, not with ink, but with presence. The seal of the living God rests upon your spirit. When you walk into a room, darkness trembles not because of your voice, but because of the power that walks with you. The same power that parted seas, that silenced storms, that raised the dead, resides in you. You may not see it yet, but everything around you is aligning. The delays, the detours, even the disappointments, they are forming a divine pattern that leads to your unveiling. What you lost was not punishment, it was pruning. God has been removing what could not walk into your next season. The relationships that fell apart, the doors that slammed shut, they were all heaven's protection disguised as pain. But now, the heavens whisper, enough waiting. The time of hiding ends today. The light that has been concealed inside you must break forth. You are being called to rise, to step out of the shadows of fear, doubt, and hesitation. This is your moment of activation, the point where faith becomes motion, and obedience becomes destiny. You are not just another voice. You are the trumpet that heaven has chosen to sound in this generation. When you speak, chains will break. When you move, barriers will collapse. You will carry healing where there was sickness, clarity where there was confusion, and hope where there was despair. You have walked through the fire, but the flames have not consumed you. They have purified you. You are stepping into divine purpose today, not tomorrow, not someday, today, because heaven's clock just struck the hour of transformation. You have been chosen to usher in what's coming, something that will change everything. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 13. Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. Do you feel that stirring in your spirit right now? That's not emotion, that's confirmation. Heaven is testifying that this word is for you. Don't ignore it. Don't postpone your yes. Every second of hesitation delays the miracle already assigned to your name. This is not a random video, not a coincidence, not a scroll of chance. This is divine interruption. God is speaking, and He's saying, step forward. Say yes. Rise. If your heart is burning right now, it's because your destiny just awakened. Heaven is waiting for your response. Before you leave this moment, make it known. Declare it in faith below. Comment the number 777 if you receive this word and you're ready to step into your calling. And don't forget, like, share, and subscribe so this message can reach the other chosen ones who are waiting for their awakening. Every chosen one carries a divine signature, evidence that heaven knows their name. You are not behind. You are in perfect timing. What felt like delay was God's hand positioning you for revelation. The shaking you feel is not destruction, it's activation. Something holy is being awakened inside you right now. The Spirit of the Lord is hovering over you, preparing to breathe life into every forgotten dream. You will rise with renewed strength, not by your might, but by divine power. Heaven has already written victory beside your name. You just have to walk in it, step by step, faith by faith. This is not motivation, it's prophecy. Heaven is declaring that your season has shifted. You are standing on sacred ground, chosen to be a vessel of light in a time of darkness. The old you cannot come with you. The new you is already emerging, crowned, refined, and unstoppable. Long before you ever spoke your first word, heaven had already whispered your name into eternity. The marking upon your life was not earned, it was given. It happened quietly, in moments you never realized were sacred. Before anyone could recognize you, before you could even recognize yourself, God had already set you apart. This is what few understand. The anointing is rarely loud when it begins. It moves in silence, shaping, refining, and preparing those chosen to carry its weight. There were moments when you wondered why you felt different, why your path seemed harder than others, why no one truly saw you. It wasn't rejection, it was protection. The invisible hand of heaven shielded you from environments that could have poisoned your purpose. The friendships that never formed, the opportunities that slipped away, the seasons of loneliness, all of it was divine strategy. God was not withholding, He was preserving. He knew the oil on your life could not be shared with everyone. The seal placed on you is not visible to the human eye, but all of heaven recognizes it. It is the invisible mark of divine ownership. When you walk into a place, angels move into position. When you speak, even your words carry spiritual resonance. That is why the enemy has tried so hard to make you doubt yourself, because he saw the seal before you did. Every chosen one experiences this hidden marking before public recognition. It's the stage of obscurity, when no one applauds and no spotlight shines. But in the quiet, heaven works. You are being carved by unseen hands, molded into a vessel of strength and discernment. Your spirit is learning to hear God's voice in stillness, to follow divine instruction without needing validation. The battles you faced were not random. Each one revealed how deep your calling runs. When the fire surrounded you, it wasn't to destroy you, it was to reveal what could not burn. Even in your lowest moments, when you felt invisible, you were still radiant in the unseen realm. The mark upon you glows brightest when the world goes dark. There is a mystery in the way God chooses. He often hides His greatest warriors in plain sight. You looked ordinary to others, but in the spirit, you were glowing with destiny. The world may have called you overlooked, but heaven called you appointed. You have been under construction for a purpose far greater than you can yet comprehend. When people walked away, heaven took notes. When you cried and no one came, angels gathered your tears like seeds. Every moment of heartbreak was recorded, not as tragedy but as testimony in progress. God has been crafting your story so that one day your scars will speak louder than your wounds ever did. You carry something rare, divine distinction. It separates you, not to punish you, but to prepare you. If you had fit in, you would have lost the essence of your calling. You were never meant to blend, you were meant to blaze. That quiet difference inside you is not a flaw, it's the fingerprint of God. Soon, what has been invisible will become undeniable. The mark that no one could see will manifest in favor, in authority, in influence. You won't have to explain yourself. Heaven will do the explaining through the evidence that follows your obedience. When God marks you, recognition becomes inevitable, but pride becomes impossible, because you'll know it was never you. It was the one who called you before time began. The prophet Jeremiah once wrote in his scroll, chapter 1, verse 5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." This truth is not ancient history, it's your identity. You are the continuation of that same divine pattern. Before your family ever named you, God had already written your role in eternity's script. You are not here by luck or coincidence. You are here because heaven needed a voice through which it could speak. The mark upon your life is not fading, it's intensifying. Every trial you survive deepens it. Every act of obedience strengthens it. There is a glow around those who say yes to God in silence, who stay faithful even when unseen. That glow is not for display, it's for divine recognition. The spiritual realm knows your name. So walk differently. Move with quiet confidence. You don't need validation from the crowd when heaven has already crowned you in secret. There is no need to prove what God has already approved. The same power that marked you will sustain you. You are not forgotten, you are being unveiled. You are heaven's evidence on earth, proof that even in silence, God is still writing. Every marking carries a mission. The seal on your life is not for decoration, it's an assignment waiting for expression. When the right moment comes, that invisible mark will speak louder than any title. Heaven's fingerprint on you is permanent, unerasable, and undeniable. You are not waiting to be chosen, you already are. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the weight becomes almost unbearable. You've reached the edge of what you thought you could handle, and life feels like it's pressing in from every side. That's not punishment, it's transformation. The breaking point is not the end, it's the place where heaven begins. When everything feels shattered, God is rebuilding you into something indestructible. You've asked why it had to hurt so much. Why did people leave when you needed them most? Why did the very ones you helped turn away? The answer is both painful and holy, because this was never meant to be a shared path. The anointing on your life required isolation, and the pain you feel is proof that heaven is refining you, not rejecting you. Do you remember the nights you cried, wondering if God still saw you? He did. Every tear was a signal to heaven that you were still fighting, still holding on when quitting would have been easier. The unseen realm watched as you kept walking through storms that others would have drowned in. You didn't realize it, but while you were breaking, you were also being built. This is the sacred paradox of divine calling. God breaks what he intends to multiply. The seed must die before it becomes fruit. The vessel must be emptied before it can be filled with glory. That's why you felt stripped, reduced, and forgotten. because heaven has been hollowing out space inside you, preparing room for power, wisdom, and purpose. You are standing now in the tension between what was and what will be. It feels like everything is collapsing, but in truth, everything is aligning. You are at the threshold of becoming. The weight that nearly crushed you was heaven's evidence that something greater was being born through you. The Word of God declares in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 8, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair." Let that truth settle in your spirit. You may feel pressed, but you are not crushed. The pressure you feel is producing endurance. The silence you face is growing revelation. The loneliness you endure is training your spirit to depend on heaven alone. When you reach this breaking point, you will be tempted to turn back, to shrink, to stop believing. Don't, because this moment is holy. It is where your flesh fails and your faith begins to breathe. Every chosen one must pass through this place, the furnace of transformation, because only here can the impurities fall away and the divine identity emerge. Do not despise your breaking. Embrace it. Let it refine you. The cracks in your soul are where the light gets in. The places you thought were too damaged are becoming the very points through which heaven will shine. You have not been abandoned, you have been entrusted. God saw something in you strong enough to carry the weight of destiny. There's a sound rising in the spirit, a sound that only those who have been broken can hear. It's the sound of heaven saying, "Stand back up. You are closer to breakthrough than you realize." The night has felt long, but dawn is already rising. You are not defined by what broke you. You are defined by what survived inside you. The fire did not consume you, it purified you. And when the world sees you next, they will not see the scars, they will see the glory that grew from them. If your heart recognizes this truth, if you know you are in that sacred breaking where God is shaping something new inside you, then write these words as a declaration of faith and surrender. Comment, "Still standing." Because when you say "still standing," you're not just describing survival, you're prophesying strength. You're declaring that the attack failed, that the pain did not end your purpose, and that even at your breaking point, heaven is still holding you together. When you type "still standing," you are testifying to heaven that the storm failed. You're declaring that every force that tried to silence you has lost its grip. Those two words carry the weight of your entire journey, every tear, every battle, every silent prayer you thought went unnoticed. You are saying to the universe, "I am not broken, I am becoming." When you write "still standing," you are speaking both to your past and your future. You are telling your past, "You did not destroy me," and telling your future, "I'm ready for what's next." It is not just a comment, it's a prophetic signature. A reminder that grace carried you through places where strength alone could not. Heaven reads it as obedience, not expression. So write it with boldness, "Still standing," because it is the anthem of the chosen ones, the mark of survivors who refuse to bow to fear. And as you declare it, heaven echoes back, "Yes, you still stand, because I still reign." The storms were never meant to drown you. They were designed to awaken the voice hidden within you. For too long, the noise of the world has tried to silence the whisper of heaven that lives inside your soul. You have listened to opinions, to fear, to doubt voices that told you to stay small, to stop believing, to lower your expectations. But then, in the middle of the storm. Another voice began to rise, quiet at first, but undeniable. It wasn't external, it came from within. It was the voice of the Spirit that has been waiting for this moment to speak through you. You began to sense it during your hardest nights, the stirring, the knowing, the subtle assurance that even though chaos surrounded you, something divine was holding you together. That was not coincidence, it was divine communication. God doesn't always speak through thunder or lightning. Sometimes he speaks through the gentle nudge that refuses to let your faith die. You've walked through seasons that should have silenced you forever. Yet, here you are still hearing, still believing, still breathing. That alone is proof that you are not alone in the storm. The voice of God has been your anchor, speaking direction in the middle of confusion and peace in the middle of pain. When you couldn't see a way forward, the whisper came, "Keep walking." When you felt forgotten, it said, "You are mine." When you doubted your worth, it reminded you, "You are chosen." That voice has never left you. It is the same voice that spoke creation into being, now speaking restoration into your life. The Word of God declares in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 27, "My sheep listen to my voice, I know them, and they follow me." That truth is not metaphorical, it's personal. You are being guided not by circumstance but by revelation. Every time you chose peace over panic, obedience over impulse, faith over fear, that was you following the shepherd's voice. And though storms tried to drown it out, the voice of heaven has remained consistent, calling you higher. Sometimes the loudest miracle isn't the parting of a sea, it's the clarity that comes in the middle of the wind. When you finally recognize the difference between noise and truth, you begin to live differently. You stop reacting to everything around you and start responding to the stillness within. You learn that divine instruction often arrives in moments that feel ordinary. This voice does not demand attention, it invites trust. It does not shout, it leads. And the closer you draw to it, the more everything else fades. That's why God allows storms not to scare you, but to separate the true sound from the false, to teach you how to hear beyond confusion, beyond fear, beyond your own thoughts. You are not losing your mind, you are finding your frequency. The storm has been tuning your spirit to the wavelength of heaven. What once sounded unclear is now becoming distinct. You're beginning to recognize when God is speaking, not because it's louder, but because it's familiar. His tone is peace. His rhythm is love. His language is truth. And here lies your turning point, the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is heaven saying to me through this?" That shift in perception transforms chaos into revelation. Every storm becomes a classroom where faith matures and purpose clarifies. You are not a victim of life's noise, you are a vessel for divine sound. There's authority in your voice now because it has been shaped by the same storm that tried to silence it. When you speak, you will carry the weight of what you've endured. Heaven will use your words to break chains in others, to bring calm to those still lost in their own tempests. Do not underestimate what God has taught you in the quiet. The voice that comforted you in the night will one day speak through you in daylight. You will become that same whisper of hope for someone else. Your storm gave birth to sound, the sound of conviction, of clarity, of courage. So let the world roar. Let opinions clash. Let fear scream. You've already learned where true peace resides. You no longer chase the noise, you follow the voice. and that voice will always lead you home. The same voice that led you through the storm is still guiding you now. It will never abandon you, never mislead you, never grow silent when you truly listen. It speaks purpose where confusion once lived. Every time you pause to hear, heaven aligns your steps again. You are not drifting, you are being directed. Divine order flows when human noise fades. This is the rhythm of revelation and rest. Keep listening. The voice that called you out of chaos is preparing to speak your next instruction. Do not rush ahead. Stillness is strength. And in that stillness, you will hear destiny unfold. There are moments when heaven's fire meets the fragile walls of your humanity, and something unexplainable happens. You begin to glow from within. That's where you are right now. You've walked through shadows, survived the breaking, and learned to hear the whisper. Now, heaven wraps you in something new, the mantle of fire. It is not physical flame, but divine presence, invisible yet undeniable. When this mantle falls upon you, everything ordinary begins to burn with holy purpose. You will notice it in small ways first. The same places that once drained you now feel alive again. Words you speak begin to carry weight. Your prayers start to shift the air around you. That's what divine fire does. It transforms you quietly, steadily, and completely. It burns away fear, doubt, and hesitation until only boldness remains. You were never meant to live dimly. God designed your spirit to burn brightly in a world that has grown cold. Every act of kindness, every prayer whispered for someone else, every time you choose forgiveness over resentment, it's all part of your flame. The mantle of fire is not for display, it's for illumination. It's how heaven reveals itself through human vessels. There's something sacred about carrying this light. It doesn't make you better than others, it makes you responsible. You become a living torch in the hands of God, lighting paths for those still walking in darkness. That's why the trials were so heavy. You were being forged into flame. Fire cannot fall on what is not ready to carry it. The Word of God reminds us through the book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 3. They saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and came to rest on each of them. That same fire now rests on you, not to consume, but to commission. You are being called to ignite faith, hope, and love in others. And the more you pour out, the more heaven refills you. That's the mystery of divine fire. It never runs out when shared. The warmth of this fire extends beyond words. It becomes visible through actions. When you lift others up, you're spreading light. When you speak life where there was despair, you're extending flame. Each time you give, pray, or encourage, you are adding fuel to this divine fire. And like every living flame, it needs to be fed to keep burning strong. This is where something beautiful happens when hearts come together, each carrying a spark. They create a fire large enough to be seen across generations. That's what this space, this message, this community represents. It's not one person's light, it's a gathering of flames, burning brighter together. If this message has ever spoken to you, strengthened you, or given you hope, I want to invite you, not as a demand, but as an opportunity to help keep this fire burning. When you support this mission, you're not funding content, you're fueling purpose. You're helping light reach hearts that are sitting in their own storms, searching for the same whisper that once found you. Think of it like oil for a lamp. Every prayer, every share, every small act of generosity becomes part of the flame that continues to shine long after the screen goes dark. Some can give prayer, some can give time, and some can give resources, but all of it matters. Each offering, no matter the size, keeps the fire alive. If you feel led, you can contribute through the donation link below. Let it be your drop of oil in the lamp that never dies. Give only as your heart desires, freely, joyfully, as worship. And to everyone who simply listens, who prays, who shares your presence here, is already a flame. You're part of something eternal, something bigger than algorithms or platforms. This is a movement of light, and your presence fuels it just as much as your gifts ever could. If this word has reignited something in you, help pass the torch. Hit like to let heaven know the flame reached you. Share this message to hand that flame to another soul. And subscribe so you remain among the fires that keep spreading warmth across the earth. And if you feel a quiet nudge in your spirit to give, let it be a sacred moment between you and God. Your donation becomes incense rising, oil for the eternal flame, a spark that tells heaven the fire here will not go out. You are not just watching, you are part of the flame. Together, we carry the mantle of fire. Together, we keep the light alive. When one flame meets another, the light multiplies, not divides. Every heart that joins this fire strengthens its glow. Together, we form a constellation of purpose, each spark reflecting heaven's endless compassion upon the earth. Let your life become part of this holy wildfire, not of destruction, but of renewal flames that purify, illuminate, and heal. As long as one spark remains, darkness will never win. Keep burning. Chosen one. There are moments when heaven itself seems to pause, when time slows, when silence fills the air, and your spirit feels suspended between what was and what will be. This is the divine pause, the holy stillness before destiny unfolds. You may feel like nothing is moving, that prayers have stalled, that promises are delayed, but what looks like silence is actually synchronization. Heaven is aligning everything around you, waiting for your obedience to unlock what's next. When heaven pauses, it's not because you've been forgotten, it's because you've been prioritized. The pause is not punishment, it's preparation. God is shifting circumstances, hearts, and timing so that when you step forward, nothing can stand in your way. Sometimes, divine speed begins with divine stillness. You've prayed for acceleration, but acceleration without alignment creates chaos. That's why heaven slows you down to strengthen your foundation, to deepen your roots, to ensure that what's coming will last. You are not stuck, you are being stabilized. The pause is protection from premature movement. During this stillness, God listens closely, not just to your words, but to your heart. When the noise fades, your real desires surface. The divine pause exposes what matters most. It strips away distractions, demands, and false directions until only truth remains. And that truth will set the course for your next breakthrough. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Habakkuk. Chapter 2, verse 3. For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it lingers, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. That verse carries the heartbeat of this moment. Your promise has not been denied. It's simply waiting for divine timing. What looks like delay is actually a countdown to manifestation. Heaven has not forgotten your name. Heaven has been rehearsing your unveiling. Think of a seed in the soil. Nothing seems to happen on the surface, but underneath, roots are forming. Systems are growing. Foundations are strengthening. If the soil were opened too early, the seed would die from exposure. That's why the pause is sacred. God hides you until growth becomes strength. In this silence, heaven watches your response. Will you panic, or will you trust? Will you complain, or will you prepare? The ones who endure the pause with faith are the ones heaven can promote with purpose. Every chosen one must learn this rhythm, the divine balance between motion and stillness. If your life feels like it's standing still, look again. The pause is not empty. It's full of invisible activity. Angels are organizing opportunities, shifting pathways, opening doors you cannot yet see. Heaven is rewriting what once seemed final. What you thought was over is being rewritten as about to begin. This moment demands patience, but also awareness. Listen carefully in the quiet. The voice of God often speaks loudest when the world grows silent. This is the interval where instructions are whispered, where new visions are birthed. You are not losing time, you are being trusted with timing. Don't despise the stillness, dwell in it. Let peace do its work. Let silence teach you what noise never could. Because soon, movement will come again. And when it does, it will come suddenly, powerfully, and permanently. You won't have to chase what's yours. It will find you at the appointed moment. Heaven pauses not to delay you, but to position you. Every chosen one is asked this question during the pause. Will you still believe when everything stops moving? If you can answer yes, then what's waiting will arrive faster than you imagined. This is that sacred space, the pause before the promise, the hush before the unveiling. Stand still, not in fear, but in faith, because the next sound you'll hear will be the sound of destiny unlocking. And when that happens, you'll realize this quiet was never empty. It was filled with God's fingerprints, arranging your future. If you feel this word stirring your spirit, if you sense that heaven has paused everything around you just to realign your life, declare it now in faith. Comment the number 444. Write it as a sign that you trust the timing of heaven. 444 symbolizes divine order, stability, and completion of a cycle. When you type it, you're not begging for movement, you're agreeing with God's timing. You're saying, I trust the pause, I trust the process, I trust the promise. Your stillness is not wasted, it's sacred. Soon, motion will return and it will carry miracles. When you comment 444, you are declaring that you no longer wrestle with divine timing, you walk with it. You're saying, I release my hurry and embrace heaven's rhythm. It's not superstition, it's surrender. Every digit echoes trust heaven's number for perfect order finding you. By writing 444, you are sealing agreement with God's process. You're placing your name beside patience, faith, and alignment. It is your silent amen to heaven's schedule, a symbol that you believe the pause carries purpose. The stillness is not waiting time, it's sacred construction time. You have felt it for years, the sense that something invisible has been tracking you. Not paranoia, but awareness. A strange knowing that the darkness has studied your light since the day you were born. It's because you are not just another soul wandering through time. You are a threat to everything that opposes heaven's design. The shadows know your name because the light within you has been marked as dangerous to their dominion. This is the battle in the shadows, a war that unfolds behind the veil of the visible. While you have been living, working, and dreaming, forces have been moving in the unseen, trying to discourage, distract, and detour you from destiny. Every sleepless night, every sudden wave of fear, every unexplained heaviness, it was not random, it was warfare. But you must understand something sacred. Darkness studies what it fears. The very reason you faced such unrelenting resistance is because you carry something powerful enough to shift spiritual climates. The enemy doesn't waste energy on the ordinary. He fights the ones who carry fire. And you, chosen one, burn brighter than you realize. You were never meant to fight in your own strength. The battles you face are spiritual because your assignment is spiritual. That's why the weapons of this world don't work. You've tried reasoning with chaos, arguing with lies, numbing the ache, but none of that brings peace. Because peace is not the absence of battle, it's the awareness of divine backing. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." That scripture pulls back the curtain on reality. You are not crazy. You are not imagining the tension that seems to follow you. What you're sensing is the friction between light and darkness, heaven's strategy colliding with hell's resistance. But the truth that darkness tries hardest to hide is this: it cannot win. Even when you feel weary, heaven is fighting for you. Angels move at God's command, surrounding you like an invisible army. The attacks that were meant to break you have only revealed the strength of your covering. If you could see what stands around you in the spirit, you'd never doubt again. You'd walk with the calm of one who knows they are protected by glory itself. The enemy attacks your mind because he cannot touch your calling. He tries to plant fear, confusion, and self-doubt, because those are the only weapons that can slow your obedience. But once you recognize his strategy, his power crumbles. Every lie loses oxygen when confronted by truth. Every shadow disappears when you turn on the light. You may not realize it, but you have already been winning. Every time you refused to give up, you claimed victory. Every time you prayed through pain, you pushed darkness back. Every time you chose forgiveness instead of bitterness, heaven advanced a step closer through your life. You have been fighting a war not with fists, but with faith, and that faith terrifies hell. This is why you've been misunderstood. People can't see the spiritual battle behind your eyes. They don't know what it takes to wake up each day and still believe after everything that's been thrown at you. But heaven knows. Every unseen battle has been recorded as evidence of your endurance. You are not fighting for victory. You are fighting from victory because the cross already decided the outcome. When you understand that truth, fear begins to dissolve. You stop reacting to attacks and start recognizing assignments. You learn that not every hardship is meant to hurt you. Some are meant to train you. Spiritual maturity is forged in these shadowed places where only faith keeps you standing. You carry authority now, even if you can't see it yet. Darkness recognizes your growth before you do. That's why resistance often intensifies right before breakthrough. It's the enemy's last attempt to distract you before his defeat becomes public. Stay grounded in truth. Keep your spirit anchored in peace. And remember, silence does not mean absence. The God who called you has not stepped back, he has stepped closer. He allows battles not to destroy you, but to reveal you. Every confrontation with darkness unveils another layer of your strength. Every attack exposes a new depth of your anointing. You are becoming a weapon sharpened by struggle, tempered by trial, and guided by divine wisdom. So, do not fear the shadows anymore. They only prove that light is near. The same fire that marks you also shields you. Heaven does not train warriors for defeat. You were equipped to overcome, to discern, and to stand in peace while the world trembles. You are not alone in this fight. You are surrounded by glory. When the enemy looks at you now, he doesn't just see a person, he sees the reflection of divine fire burning behind your eyes. And that's what the darkness fears most. There comes a shift in the spirit when a chosen one begins to realize that authority has been inside them all along. For so long, you've been asking heaven to move mountains, not realizing heaven placed the power to move them within your own voice. What once intimidated you now begins to respond to your words. This is the awakening of authority, the moment when you stop praying as a beggar and start declaring as an heir. For years, you've cried out, "God, help me," and he has answered every time. But now his voice echoes back differently, not with rescue, but with reminder, you already have what you need. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in you. Authority is not something you earn through effort. It's something you awaken through understanding. When you speak truth, creation listens. When you command peace, storms still. Heaven backs your words not because of who you are, but because of who you belong to. That is the essence of divine authority speaking from the throne, not from fear. You don't need to chase validation when you stand on revelation. Authority is not about volume, it's about alignment. The loudest voices often carry the least weight. But those who speak from obedience shift entire atmospheres. When your heart aligns with heaven's will, your words become instruments of transformation. They carry the tone of eternity, the vibration of truth. We find in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 19, "I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." That verse is more than metaphor, it's inheritance. You've been handed keys. Yet for years you've stood before locked doors wondering why they won't open. Heaven is whispering, use what you've been given. Authority unused is potential unrealized. God doesn't need to give you more power. He's calling you to release the power already entrusted to you. You begin to notice this awakening subtly. Words you once spoke carelessly now echo with consequence. Prayers that used to feel small begin to ripple outward with strength. You speak healing, and peace follows. You speak light, and darkness withdraws. You begin to sense that every syllable carries spiritual substance. Authority is awareness clothed in humility. It does not boast, but it does not shrink either. It stands in quiet confidence, knowing heaven agrees. When you speak with that conviction, even your silence commands respect in the unseen realm. The enemy recognizes who truly knows their position, and he flees from those who do. For too long, you've seen yourself as someone asking permission to exist, to succeed, to shine. But authority comes when you remember who sent you. You are an ambassador of heaven, carrying divine credentials. Every room you enter shifts because you carry the King's decree within you. The atmosphere must adjust to your presence because your presence represents His. This awakening changes how you pray. You stop pleading for what's already promised. You begin to thank before you see. You start decreeing instead of doubting. Your posture transforms from Lord, please, to Lord, it is done. That's not arrogance, it's alignment. You're no longer begging at heaven's gate, you're standing inside it. This authority doesn't remove hardship, but it changes your relationship with it. When you know who you are, even pain becomes an instrument. You start commanding peace within storms rather than asking for them to disappear. You recognize that your authority does not exempt you from battle. It empowers you to stand unshaken within it. Heaven trusts those who wield authority with compassion. Power without love becomes pride. But power with love becomes transformation. That's why your process was long. It was never about gaining ability, but about gaining maturity. God could have released your authority earlier, but He waited until your heart was ready to carry it without corruption. Now you walk differently. You no longer wait for affirmation to act. You move because you've heard heaven's yes. You no longer fear opposition because you've learned that resistance only reveals rank. You speak differently, pray differently, and see differently because authority changes perception before it changes reality. Do not underestimate your voice. The heavens respond to faith, not volume. When you whisper truth in alignment with God's will, the spiritual realm trembles. You are heaven's echo on earth, the living decree of divine purpose. So speak without fear, without hesitation, without apology. Speak to the dry bones in your life and tell them to live again. Speak to closed doors and watch them unlock. Speak peace over chaos, light over darkness, victory over defeat. You were created to command creation, not to cower before it. This is your awakening, not a new power, but a new awareness. Heaven is no longer silent because heaven now speaks through you. When you know that, everything around you begins to bow to divine order. The moment you believe this truth is the moment your life begins to move with heaven's rhythm. You are no longer just surviving, you are governing. Every chosen one reaches a sacred crossroad, the place where surrender becomes the doorway to glory. You fought, endured, and carried the weight of purpose. But now heaven whispers a final invitation: lay it all down. This is the covenant of surrender, the moment when obedience matters more than outcome. When the will of God outweighs the will of self. You have prayed for power, for answers, for breakthrough. But true power begins in surrender. You cannot carry divine authority in one hand and cling to control with the other. Heaven requires both hands open. That's why the journey has stripped you of certain comforts, people, and plans. It's not punishment. It's purification. There comes a moment when God stops negotiating with your preferences and begins transforming your perspective. What once felt like loss reveals itself as liberation. The dreams that died were never wasted. They were replaced by assignments that carry eternal weight. Every no from heaven was protecting you from something smaller than your destiny. You've tried to hold everything together, afraid that surrender would mean losing yourself. But the mystery of the kingdom is this: when you lose yourself, you actually find who you were created to be. What dies in surrender is what was never meant to survive in glory. The Apostle Paul wrote in his letter to the Romans, chapter 12, verse 1, "Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship." This kind of surrender is not weakness, it is worship. It's the act of saying, "God, I trust you with the outcome, even when I don't understand the process." Every time you surrender, heaven writes it down as victory, because obedience always wins, even when it feels like loss. You've been holding tight to timelines and expectations, but heaven is teaching you to breathe again, to trust that what's for you won't require you to fight against divine timing. The covenant of surrender means exchanging anxiety for assurance, pressure for peace, striving for stillness. It's in surrender that you start hearing God clearly again. The noise fades. The chaos loses its grip. You realize that control was never your responsibility, obedience was. When you surrender, you stop trying to manipulate outcomes and start participating in miracles. This covenant is written not in ink, but in tears. It's signed by moments of letting go and sealed with the peace that follows. It's not a one-time act, it's a rhythm of trust day by day, choice by choice, step by step. You surrender not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that heaven always has a better plan. You might ask, how do I surrender when it still hurts? The answer is, surrender doesn't mean it stops hurting, it means you stop resisting. You let God use the pain instead of fighting against it. Every broken piece becomes part of the mosaic of your destiny. Surrender is not about losing battles, it's about shifting ownership. You give what's in your hands to the one who never drops anything. You stop carrying what was never meant for you and begin walking lighter, freer, stronger. This is your covenant moment. Heaven is waiting for your yes, not the shallow yes of convenience, but the deep yes of commitment, the yes that echoes through eternity. When you finally yield everything, your fears, your plans, your pride, heaven fills the empty space with purpose, peace, and power. The chosen ones are those who have mastered the art of letting go. They understand that the tighter they hold, the less they receive. But when their hands open, heaven fills them again and again. You are being asked to sign your covenant tonight, not with words, but with surrender. To whisper, God, not my will, but yours. To finally rest in the fact that divine control is far safer than human control. And when you do, heaven begins to move things you didn't even pray for. Opportunities realign, strength returns, and peace flows like a river. Because once you surrender, you stop chasing blessings, they start chasing you. If your heart recognizes this call, if you can feel the pull to release what you've been gripping too tightly, then make it known in faith right now. Comment, I yield. When you write those two words, you're not giving up, you're giving over. You're declaring that your life is no longer led by fear, but by faith, that you trust God's process more than your own plans. It's your covenant signature, your spiritual agreement with heaven. I will no longer wrestle, I will rest. The covenant of surrender is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of divine partnership. From this point forward, heaven doesn't just move for you, it moves through you. When you whisper, "I yield," heaven hears the sound of trust. It's the sound that unlocks divine movement, the stillness before miracles unfold. Surrender doesn't close your story. It turns the page toward everything promised and finally possible. Something sacred is shifting again. You can almost feel it in the air, a quiet stirring, like the breath before dawn, like the hush that settles right before heaven moves. The atmosphere around you is changing because you have changed. You've walked through the silence, through the storms, through surrender, and now the season itself begins to split. What once was will no longer be. This is the splitting of seasons, the divine moment where endings make way for beginnings. Every chosen one reaches this threshold. It's where you stand between the ashes of yesterday and the horizon of tomorrow, where comfort collides with calling. And in this space, God asks you one question: will you move forward? The old season cannot follow you into the new. What once fed you now limits you. What once comforted you now confines you. Heaven is calling you to cross the invisible line between what has been and what will be. You can feel the tension of it, the familiar pulling at your heels, while the unknown whispers your name. But this is how heaven transitions you. Just as the tide must recede to make room for new waves, parts of your life are drawing back so that greater purpose can flow in. It's not loss, it's renewal. According to what is revealed in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 19, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." That verse is not just a promise, it's prophecy fulfilled in your life right now. You may still be standing in the wilderness, but if you look closer, you'll notice the first trickle of water carving a path through the dry ground. God is creating streams where there was none, provision where there was only pressure. This split of seasons feels strange because heaven is untangling you from what you've outgrown. The old version of you cannot survive where you're going. That's why you feel stretched, uncomfortable, maybe even uncertain. But that tension is proof of transformation. You are being expanded, refined, and prepared for something that demands a larger capacity. You are leaving behind not just people or places, but patterns, ways of thinking, speaking, and believing that no longer fit your divine blueprint. The split is painful, yes, but necessary. Like a butterfly breaking from its cocoon, you must shed what once sheltered you to experience flight. And as you rise into this new season, you are not meant to rise alone. The fire that burns within you was never for your hands only, it's for others still wandering in the cold. That's what this space, this message, this community is about: a collective rising. Many flames, one light. So, if these words have helped you see light in your own transition, I ask you not as obligation, but as invitation to help keep this light alive. When you donate, you are not paying for a message, you are planting a seed of warmth for someone else's winter. Each gift, no matter how small, becomes a candle placed into another soul's darkness. Think of it like building a lighthouse together. Your prayers are the foundation. Your shares are the bricks. Your generosity is the beam of light reaching lost ships in the night. The more hearts that join, the brighter the beacon becomes. And for those who cannot give financially, know this: your presence, your listening, your prayer, your simple act of sharing this message, all of it is light. When you press like, It's as if you're adding another flame to the altar of encouragement. When you share, you're carrying fire to someone who may be standing in silence, waiting for a sign that hope still exists. If your spirit feels called, you can support through the donation link below. Let it come from gratitude, not guilt, from love, not pressure. Giving is not an exchange, it's an echo. What you release into light always returns multiplied. And while you do, remember, this message is not mine alone, it's ours. Every comment, every prayer, every act of kindness has kept it alive. This is not just a voice, it's a movement of hearts rising together through divine purpose. So if this word has reminded you that your season is shifting, that God is still doing something new in your story, then let your actions reflect that awakening. Like this message to keep the flame visible. Share it so others can find warmth in their wilderness. Subscribe to stay connected to the unfolding light that never goes out. Because every new season begins with one brave yes, and sometimes that yes comes through a simple act of generosity, of connection, of faith. You are standing in that moment now. The old has done its part. The new is waiting for you to step into it. You are not leaving emptiness behind, you are leaving space for miracles. The split of seasons is not a breaking, it's a birthing. And as you cross over, heaven smiles, for you are becoming exactly who you were always meant to be. There is a stirring in the unseen, a rearranging of timelines, a sacred shifting of order. What was once delayed begins to move, and what felt forgotten begins to breathe again. This is the prophetic shift, the divine turning of the page in your story. Heaven is not simply restoring what was lost, it is repositioning everything that belongs to you. For a long time, it seemed as if your prayers were echoing back empty, as though heaven had gone silent. You waited, hoping for a sign that the promises you carried were still alive. Yet what you didn't realize was that your waiting was not wasted, it was the womb of what's now being born. The silence was gestation, not rejection. What heaven conceives in stillness, it releases in power. When God moves, He rarely announces it with noise. The prophetic shift happens quietly, like dawn creeping across the horizon. You might not even notice it at first, the subtle realignments, the sudden peace after chaos, the new strength where weakness used to dwell. But soon, everything that once resisted you begins to cooperate with divine intention. You are entering a season where what has been spoken over you will finally start to manifest. Prophetic words that once seemed distant are now drawing near. The atmosphere around you is becoming fertile with fulfillment. Things that were impossible a year ago will unfold effortlessly now. Not because circumstances changed, but because your alignment did. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 55, verse 11. So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. That scripture is heaven's guarantee that what God promised cannot fail. The words spoken over you were never suggestions, they were divine decrees. Even when you doubted, those words kept working quietly, invisibly, persistently, like seeds buried in soil. They were growing beneath the surface while you thought nothing was happening. You are about to see the evidence. The shift has already begun. You can sense it in your spirit, the way your heart beats differently, the way peace replaces anxiety, the way clarity begins to return. Heaven's order is unfolding, and every delay you endured was actually synchronization. God was waiting for the right moment to release what would not have survived too early. Prophetic fulfillment is not about luck, it's about timing. Just as a symphony waits for every instrument to tune before the first note is played, heaven ensures that everything concerning you is in harmony before the shift is revealed. That is why the wait was long. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation for precision. You will look back soon and realize that nothing was random. Every detour, every disappointment, every door that closed was redirecting you toward this exact alignment. The prophetic shift is not just about external blessings, it's about internal awakening. You are becoming someone who can carry what you once only dreamed of. When prophetic words begin to manifest, peace becomes your confirmation. You won't have to force anything. Doors will open naturally. Conversations will flow with divine ease, and connections will appear exactly when they're meant to. This is the grace of divine momentum, effortless acceleration born from spiritual alignment. Do not be surprised if some things begin to fall away during this time. Every shift requires shedding. What once fit you will suddenly feel heavy. What once inspired you may now feel finished. That's not regression, it's redirection. You are being refined for higher function. The places you're leaving behind were good for growth, but not for greatness. You may sense unfamiliar emotions, anticipation, restlessness, even holy discontent. These are signs that your spirit knows something new is coming. Heaven always stirs before it delivers. The shaking you feel is not instability. It's the rearranging of structure to hold more glory. Soon, you will speak words and see instant response. You will think thoughts and find them reflected in reality. That is what happens when heaven and earth synchronize through obedience. The spiritual atmosphere begins to respond to your faith instead of your fear. In this prophetic shift, nothing is wasted. Even your past pain becomes currency for future purpose. Every tear you sowed becomes rain that waters new beginnings. The soil of your life is ready, and heaven is ready to pour. But remember, prophetic fulfillment does not come to inflate pride, it comes to confirm purpose. The shift is not about fame but function. You are being positioned not just to receive miracles, but to become one for others. As the new season unfolds, hold your peace and walk humbly. The same hand that lifts you will sustain you. The same God who whispered promises in the dark is now revealing them in light. What once looked like an ending was only the turning of the page. This is the prophetic shift, quiet but unstoppable, gentle yet unshakable. Heaven's timing has arrived, and everything that belongs to you is rising into view. You will not need to chase it. It will find you because it recognizes its rightful owner. There are seasons when faith becomes your only breath. You've stood through storms, endured silence, and trusted through delays. But now, heaven brings you to the most sacred threshold, yet the final test of faith. It's not a test of knowledge or strength, it's a test of endurance, of whether you will still believe when nothing seems to move. You've prayed until your words ran out. You've believed until doubt tried to drown you. And still, heaven waits not to punish you, but to prove you. Because faith is not proven when everything is clear. Faith is proven when you walk in the dark, trusting the light you cannot yet see. In this season, it will feel as though heaven has gone quiet again. Doors won't open easily. Prayers may echo longer before answers return. But remember, silence is not absence. When God seems still, He is strengthening what He built in you during the last season. The delay is not denial, it's development. Faith grows in pressure. It matures in the waiting room of heaven. Every time you choose to trust instead of panic, your faith roots itself deeper into divine soil. You are being shaped into someone unshakable, someone who can hold miracles without letting pride erode them. The ancient words recorded in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 3, remind us, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. That verse isn't meant to comfort you from afar, it's meant to awaken you. Heaven is not testing you to break you, it's building you to bless you. God's plan for your life requires a foundation that won't crumble under pressure. And right now, that foundation is being solidified. You might not feel strong, but faith doesn't depend on feelings. Faith is the decision to believe beyond evidence, to stand firm even when nothing makes sense. It's not blind, it's visionary. Faith sees what's invisible and holds what's intangible. It's the bridge between the unseen and the inevitable. This is where you must remember what God has already done. Think back to the doors that once looked closed but opened anyway, to the prayers that were answered in ways you never expected. The same God who carried you then is still carrying you now. You may not see his hand, but you are standing in his plan. Faith is heaven's currency. It purchases movement where logic sees limits. Every time you say, "I still believe," you're investing in divine momentum. The more you trust, the closer breakthrough comes. But if you stop believing, the process pauses, not because God withholds, but because faith is the key that turns the lock. The final test of faith is not about endurance alone, it's about intimacy. Can you love God for who he is, not just for what he gives? Can you rest in his promise without demanding his proof? That's where real maturity begins. Heaven doesn't want robotic obedience, it desires relational trust. God wants you to stand, not out of fear, but out of confidence that his word will never return void. You are not forgotten, you are being finished. This test will pass, but how you respond will determine what you're ready to carry next. Faith that has been tested becomes faith that can be trusted. That's why this moment matters. You're being refined for reign, trained for triumph, prepared for promotion. So don't quit here. Don't let exhaustion write your ending. The night may feel endless, but dawn is coming. Every second of faith counts in eternity. Angels are watching, recording, rejoicing at your endurance. Heaven is not far, it's closer than your next breath. If this word finds you standing in the middle of uncertainty, if your spirit knows you're in that final test where everything depends on unseen hope, then declare it with boldness right now. Comment the number 555. Write it not as superstition, but as prophecy. 555 symbolizes divine grace multiplied, the number of transformation and spiritual completion. When you type it, you're saying, "I will not give up. I still believe." You're marking your alignment with heaven's rhythm, the rhythm of faith that endures. Because the test is not forever. It's only until your faith becomes sight. And when it does, you'll understand that what God was doing in the dark was building strength for the light. When you write 555, you're declaring that grace still reigns even when evidence is missing. It's your way of saying, "I choose faith over fear, process over panic." Each 5 echoes heaven's promise, grace upon grace upon grace. Typing 555 is not ritual, it's revelation. You are aligning your spirit with divine transformation. signaling to heaven that you are ready for what's next. It's your coded prayer, whispered in numbers, but heard as faith. And as you press those keys, remember, heaven counts every act of trust. 555 becomes your banner, waving over every battle, proclaiming that the test didn't break you, it birthed unshakable faith. You are passing this test with grace multiplied. Something powerful happens when heaven gathers the few who refused to bow, who stood when others fell, who kept believing when the world grew silent. This is the moment when the remnant rises, those who endured the refining fire and emerged as living flames. You are part of that remnant. You are not here by coincidence. You are the living proof that purpose cannot die in the storm. For years, heaven has been quietly separating hearts. While the masses chased comfort, a few chased truth. While others sought visibility, the hidden ones sought presence. That quiet group, the ones who stayed faithful in the shadows, are now being revealed. They are not louder, they are lighter. They carry purity, clarity, and conviction. Their strength is not in numbers, but in nearness to God. The rise of the remnant is not a public event, it's a spiritual unveiling. Heaven is identifying its warriors, the ones who will not bend under pressure or trade truth for applause. You have been trained for this moment through pain, isolation, and persistence. What once felt like exile was actually enlistment. You were being prepared to carry light in a world that's forgotten what it looks like. The prophet Elijah once stood on a mountain believing he was the only one left who still followed God. But heaven revealed there were 7,000 others hidden, refined, preserved. You are among that modern remnant. You've been hidden for protection, not rejection. Heaven never wastes warriors. It preserves them for the moment of unveiling. As it is written in the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 28, "And afterward, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions." That outpouring is not coming, it has already begun. The remnant carries it. The Spirit is resting on those who have surrendered pride for purity, platform for purpose, comfort for calling. You can feel it in the air, the weight of glory descending, the prophetic stirring in ordinary hearts, the alignment of heaven with earth through yielded vessels. The remnant does not rise for fame, it rises for function. Its purpose is not to shine for attention, but to burn for transformation. These are the ones who walk into darkness and make it retreat, who speak truth and watch strongholds crumble, who pray quietly but move nations unseen. The world may never know their names, but heaven does, and that's enough. You have been marked as part of this awakening. Your consistency has qualified you. Every time you chose integrity when compromise seemed easier, you strengthened your rank. Every time you chose forgiveness instead of revenge, you ascended higher in heaven's army. You didn't even know you were being trained, but the fire that purified you was your preparation. The remnant doesn't need the approval of the crowd because it carries the approval of the King. It doesn't follow trends, it follows truth. Its loyalty is unshaken, its compassion unbroken, its love unexhausted. You are being called to stand among them, not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. Heaven never looks for flawless vessels, only surrendered ones. You'll begin to notice divine connections forming souls, finding each other by spirit, drawn together without explanation. That's the remnant, recognizing itself. They don't compete, they complete one another. Each flame adds to the fire, and together they form a light strong enough to pierce generations of darkness. This rising will not look like what the world expects. It won't come through noise, fame, or spectacle. It will come through authenticity, humility, and power that cannot be manufactured. The remnant carries authority not from stage lights, but from secret places of prayer. The power that flows from them is not learned, it's lived. And soon, the world will feel the shift. Systems will shake, hearts will awaken, and truth will no longer be silenced. The remnant is heaven's response to corruption, compromise, and confusion. Where darkness multiplied, grace multiplied more. You are standing in that multiplication now. You may feel small, but in the Spirit, you are monumental. The prayers of the remnant are rebuilding spiritual foundations. Their obedience is shifting atmospheres. Their presence is proof that heaven never loses. You are one of them, chosen, refined, ignited. You carry fire that cannot be imitated, compassion that cannot be faked, and authority that cannot be taken. Heaven has waited for your generation, the one that would not settle for religion without relationship, noise without power, or faith without fruit. This is your hour to stand among the few who said yes when it was hardest to believe. You are not just surviving, you are representing heaven's perseverance on earth. The remnant is rising, and with it, hope is returning to humanity. You were hidden for this. You were refined for this. You were called for this. And now, the time has come for your light to join the collective blaze of heaven's chosen. The remnant rises not with pride, but with purpose, not with noise, but with nearness. And as it does, the world will remember what true light looks like again. There is a sound beginning to echo across the earth, soft at first, like distant thunder before the storm. It is not destruction that approaches, but the outpouring of glory. You can feel it if you listen carefully. That weighty stillness before heaven releases something extraordinary. What the prophets saw, what generations prayed for, what creation itself has been groaning to witness it is unfolding now. This is the season where glory no longer visits, it dwells. You are not just a witness to it, you are a vessel of it. The same presence that once rested upon mountains now rests within hearts that have been purified through surrender. Glory does not fall randomly, it follows alignment. And those who have walked faithfully through the refining fire are now ready to carry it. Glory is not noise, not emotion, not a fleeting sensation. It is heaven invading the ordinary with divine reality. It changes atmospheres. It restores what logic declared dead. It revives love where bitterness once lived. It takes what was empty and fills it with eternity's fragrance. That's why you've been emptied, because fullness was waiting to enter. You may notice how simple moments begin to feel heavy with presence. A quiet prayer feels electric. A silent worship in your room brings tears without reason. These are signs of glory resting. You don't have to chase it, it's already chasing you. Heaven has decided that your life will become proof that God still moves among men. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 12, "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father." That promise was not poetry, it was prophecy. You were not meant to admire miracles. You were meant to walk in them. The same power that turned water into wine, that opened blind eyes, that raised the dead, that power now flows through yielded vessels. The outpouring of glory is not reserved for the few. It's available to all who have said yes to the refining. When glory comes, it changes how you see everything. Suddenly, things you used to fear lose their grip. The impossible becomes expected. Hope becomes natural. You begin to look at sickness and see healing waiting to happen. You look at brokenness and see beauty in formation. Glory gives you new eyes, heaven's perspective, replacing human limitation. But glory is not only experienced, it is carried. You become an atmosphere in motion, a walking sanctuary. People will sense peace when you enter, not because of you, but because of the one who lives in you. Your life becomes a testimony written in invisible fire. This is not the time to shrink back. Glory does not settle on hesitation, it settles on hunger. Those who are desperate for more of God will see dimensions of Him that generations before only dreamed of. You were born for this outpouring. That's why your warfare was so intense, because the glory assigned to your life threatened darkness long before you realized it existed. The outpouring is not only for personal breakthrough, but for generational transformation. It will flow through families, cities, and nations. Entire environments will shift because one yielded soul chose to carry glory instead of fear. That's how revival begins, not with crowds, but with carriers. Glory will look like reconciliation where there was division. It will sound like forgiveness where there was silence. It will feel like peace settling over chaos. It will move through words, touch, creativity, compassion, any vessel willing to release it. Glory is not contained by churches or titles. It overflows wherever love abides. Be mindful. Though glory carries weight, it demands humility. The greater the presence, the deeper the bow. Those who walk in glory do not exalt themselves, they disappear within it. The world will see their works, but heaven will recognize their worship. Glory is both invitation and instruction to carry heaven. You must remain low enough for heaven to rest upon you. You will know glory is near when simplicity begins to feel sacred again, when gratitude feels heavier than complaint, when every breath feels like prayer. Glory transforms ordinary life into holy ground, and soon it will no longer be rare. The outpouring will spread like sunrise, touching hearts that never expected to encounter God. It will not come through systems or strategies, but through surrendered hearts shining quietly in the dark. You are part of that radiant wave. Everything you've endured prepared you to hold it. The cracks in your vessel make room for the light to leak through, so that others might find their way home. The outpouring is here, and you are its evidence. Glory is not coming, it's already flowing, rising from the remnant like dawn breaking through the longest night. The weight of destiny and the whisper of grace meet here in the mystery of both glory and cost. You have walked through the refiner's fire, carried light into dark places, and now heaven places something sacred upon you, the crown and the cross. The crown represents victory, the cross represents surrender, and both belong to you. Many desire the crown, but resist the cross, forgetting that glory is born through sacrifice. The crown shines only because the cross first cut deep. Every scar you've carried, every loss you've endured, it has been shaping the metal of your crown. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. There is a majesty in endurance. When heaven sees you worship through pain, it forges royalty into your spirit. Your authority is not inherited from comfort, it's born from crucifixion moments. The times when you chose obedience over ease, you've been learning to rule. Not over people, but over fear, doubt, and despair. As the Apostle reminds us in his letter to Timothy, second letter, chapter 4, verse 8, "Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing." That verse reveals the paradox of divine reward. The path to the crown always passes through the cross. You were never meant to escape your trials. You were meant to be transformed by them. Each weight you carried became part of your testimony. Each surrender became another gem in your unseen crown. And now, the time has come to lift your head. Heaven does not hand out crowns for perfection, but for perseverance. You did not quit. You kept walking when others stopped. You kept believing when the evidence ran dry. That perseverance is your royal robe. But the cross never disappears, it remains. Not as a burden, but as a reminder. The cross teaches humility, even as the crown calls you higher. One grounds you, the other glorifies you. Together, they balance your calling. You've come this far because others helped hold your cross. Their prayers, their words, their quiet presence, these were invisible hands that steadied you. And now, you have the chance to do the same for others. If this message has found a home in your heart, let it not stop with you. When you press like, imagine placing another jewel into the crown of encouragement. Your small gesture becomes part of someone's restoration. When you share, you're lifting another soul's cross beside them, reminding them they are not alone. If something inside you awakened while reading, leave a comment, just a few heartfelt words, like a prayer left on the altar. Every comment is a ripple of light, a spark of testimony that reminds another weary heart that faith still breathes here. Subscribing is not about following, it's about belonging. It's choosing to walk together under the same banner of faith, carrying fire side by side, crown and cross shining in unison. And if your spirit feels stirred to do more, consider giving not as obligation, but as offering. Picture it as pouring oil on the wounds of others, a drop of mercy that keeps this flame alive for those still in darkness. No one is forced. Every act here is sacred choice. Heaven never measures the size of a gift, only the sincerity of a heart. Even a whisper of generosity is heard like thunder in the spirit. Your journey proves that giving and receiving are never separate. Every time you lifted someone, heaven lifted you. You are part of a circle of grace, a rhythm of exchange where no love is ever lost. So lift your head, chosen one. Your crown is not just for display, it's for purpose. You are royalty with scars, proof that redemption is real. Let your life sing of both the cross that refined you and the crown that reminds you you've overcome. Like this word if it spoke to your heart. Share it if it felt like healing. Comment your truth if you wish to testify. Subscribe to keep walking with the ones who carry both flame and faith, and give, if your spirit whispers yes, as your small miracle back to the source, because the story of the chosen ones is written in both weight and wonder. And you, crowned and cross-marked, are its living chapter. Every crown shines brighter when worn with humility. Let yours remind you not of power, but of purpose to serve, to heal, to guide. Greatness was never about rising above others, but about lifting them higher. The cross you carry is your compass. Its weight directs your steps toward compassion. Every time you choose love over pride, light over bitterness, the world becomes gentler because you exist within it. Walk on, crowned soul. Heaven watches with joy as you merge glory with grace. Let your life preach silently, your scars glowing as proof that surrender always leads to resurrection. You are the balance of pain and promise. This is the moment where the air feels different, thicker, sacred, alive. You can sense it in your chest, that gentle trembling that comes when heaven draws near. Every journey, every tear, every yes has led to this, the final step. It's not just another chapter. It's the threshold where purpose becomes motion, where revelation becomes responsibility. Heaven waits, not with impatience, but with anticipation. You have been prepared for this moment through everything that once confused you. The detours, the delays, the disappointments, all of them were divine rehearsals for obedience. Every unanswered prayer was shaping discernment. Every quiet night was teaching you to hear without sound. And now, as you stand here, you are no longer waiting for confirmation. You are the confirmation. This final step is not about doing more. It's about becoming what heaven already declared. You are stepping not into a new identity, but into your true one. The hesitation you once felt was the friction between destiny and doubt, and now, doubt has nothing left to hold on to. The story of Moses comes alive again here, standing before the Red Sea, with enemies behind and uncertainty ahead. He heard the divine command, move forward. He didn't know the sea would part. He only knew obedience was required. And when he lifted what God placed in his hand, creation responded. The same principle lives in you. You don't have to see the path, just trust the step. The voice of heaven spoke long ago in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. That word is echoing over you now. The one who began this work in you has already gone ahead to finish it. You're not walking into uncertainty. You're walking into prepared territory. Every obstacle you're about to face has already been measured and matched to your strength. Taking the final step doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means faith louder than fear. It means trusting that the ground will appear as your foot moves forward. The unknown only remains dark until faith steps into it. You will discover that the bridge has always been there, waiting for your motion to make it visible. This moment carries both weight and wonder. You can almost hear the rhythm of heaven urging you forward, not with pressure, but with promise. You've been faithful in the small. Now watch what I will do with your surrender. The final step demands courage, but not performance. God is not asking you to impress him, only to trust him. Every time you act from obedience, heaven multiplies your effort. What looks like a small step to you becomes a generational shift in the spirit. And yet, obedience can feel lonely. You will find yourself misunderstood by those who stayed behind. Don't despise them, bless them. Their path is different. Some were meant to start with you, but not all were meant to finish beside you. The final step often separates the called from the chosen, not through pride, but through perseverance. You will know you've taken it when peace replaces fear, when purpose feels heavier than hesitation, when the voice within you grows quieter but deeper. The final step is not loud, it's steady. It doesn't announce itself, it fulfills itself. In this moment, remember the journey behind you. Remember the nights when you doubted you'd survive, the mornings when strength returned unexplainably, the words that found you when you thought you were unseen. All of it was evidence of divine orchestration. Heaven was never improvising, it was composing. Now the composition reaches its crescendo. The melody of faith swells as you move forward. Every choice you make from here on ripples through eternity. The legacy of your obedience will outlive your lifetime, touching hearts you'll never meet, shaping futures you'll never see. That is the power of one final, faithful step. So, breathe. Stand tall. Look beyond what your eyes can see. Heaven stands on the other side of this step, waiting with open arms. You will not fall, you will cross. You will not be abandoned, you will be advanced. And as your foot touches new ground, something unseen will shift forever. You will feel it in your spirit, a quiet settling, a holy completion. The long preparation finds its purpose. The fire that purified you now propels you. The final step is not about leaving something behind, it's about entering the place you were always meant to stand. It's the point where surrender meets fulfillment, where faith meets fruition. It's not the end, it's the beginning Heaven had in mind all along. And as you take it, the earth will remember your courage, and heaven will record your obedience. When your foot meets the unseen ground, heaven exhales in agreement. The silence breaks, not with noise, but with knowing you made it. The step wasn't small, it was sacred. Destiny recognizes your name now. And now, as the dust of your journey settles and the echoes of obedience fade into eternity, something remarkable happens. The air grows still again, not with tension, but with triumph. Heaven's story about you has reached its closing chapter. Yet this chapter is not an ending. It is the moment of reflection, the pause where eternity inhales the beauty of a life fully yielded. This is the eternal resonance, the sound your soul makes in heaven when it completes its assignment. Everything you have walked through, every battle and blessing, every rise and fall, was composing this resonance. It is not a single note, but a symphony woven from pain, faith, surrender, endurance, and love. Heaven hears it and calls it beautiful. You may not hear it now, but every act of obedience sent out a vibration that never dies. You have become an echo of divine intention. Your words, your faith, your sacrifices, they ripple beyond your lifetime. Somewhere, someone will stand stronger because you didn't quit. Somewhere, a heart will believe again because your endurance proved hope still lives. That is the resonance of the chosen, the eternal hum of faith still sounding long after the voice grows quiet. The psalmist once wrote in the book of Psalms, chapter 112, verse 6, "Surely the righteous will never be shaken, they will be remembered forever." You are remembered. Your life has left fingerprints on eternity. What you considered small, every whispered prayer, every quiet act of kindness became part of heaven's architecture. God does not forget those who loved him in the dark. Every yes you gave has been immortalized in light. Now, heaven shows you the pattern that was hidden while you walked through it. The seasons that once made no sense now reveal perfect symmetry. Every pain found its place. Every loss led to life. Every detour carved depth into your spirit. The chaos that once felt random now looks like divine geometry. The resonance of your obedience is not only upward, it's outward. It vibrates through time, reaching those who come after you. Generations will inherit the ground you prayed over. Your unseen faith built invisible bridges for them to cross safely. You may never hear their names, but heaven will whisper yours each time they rise. The greatest reward of the chosen is not comfort, it's continuation. To know that what God started in you will keep moving through others. You were never meant to hold the flame forever. You were meant to ignite it in others, so that light could travel farther than your reach. And now, the flame burns beyond you. The prayers you thought were unanswered have become seeds blooming in someone else's garden. The love you gave without recognition has become shade for a weary traveler's heart. Your story, once full of shadows, has turned into a lantern guiding others through their own night. Heaven's applause does not sound like thunder, it sounds like peace. It's that quiet, knowing that you did what you were born to do. The assignment has been fulfilled. The resonance continues. If you could see the spiritual landscape now, you'd see trails of light behind you, every step glowing with meaning. The paths of those who follow will intersect with yours. Strengthened by the residue of your faith, you have become part of heaven's living memory. Eternity doesn't measure success by numbers or noise. It measures it by obedience. And by that measure, you have succeeded beyond what you can imagine. The angels who watched your journey now carry reports of your faithfulness before the throne. The one who sent you smiles, not because you were flawless, but because you were faithful. The resonance of the chosen will not fade. It travels through generations like a sacred frequency that cannot be silenced. Even when names are forgotten, essence remains. You have joined the timeless choir of those who answered yes and kept walking. Even when their feet bled, even when their hearts broke, even when the world misunderstood them, you are part of heaven's echo, now one voice among the many, yet distinct in tone, irreplaceable in harmony. The melody you leave behind will continue to draw hearts upward, and when others feel sudden courage rise in their spirit, it will be your resonance, still singing softly through eternity's halls, the purpose of your pain, the reason for your refinement, the weight of your obedience, all converge into this one truth. You have become the sound of faith fulfilled. Rest now, not in idleness, but in completion. The journey continues beyond this chapter, but you walk lighter now, no longer proving, no longer striving, only being. Heaven's rhythm carries you forward, and your name is spoken with reverence among the redeemed. And when eternity listens, it will hear it again, that steady, unending tone born from every yes you ever gave, every tear you ever turned into worship, every moment you chose love over despair. That is your eternal resonance. It will never end. So, here we are, the final breath of this journey, the last note of this symphony of surrender and strength. You've walked through every valley, stood upon every summit, and now the story exhales through you. Heaven is not done, it's only turning the page. You've heard words that touched your soul, but now they belong to you. Carry them, not as echoes, but as living fire. The same light that found you is meant to travel through you. Let your life become the next message, the next miracle someone else needs to see. If this journey has stirred your spirit, Don't let it stay locked inside your heart. When you press like, it's not for recognition, it's a spark. A way of whispering back to heaven, I'm still here. And I still believe. Each tap is a pulse of gratitude, a sign that the flame has found another keeper. When you share, it's like releasing a lantern into the night sky. You never know whose darkness it might cross, whose heart it might reach. Your share could be the thread that pulls another chosen one out of silence. If your heart feels moved, leave a comment below, just a few honest words. Not for applause, but as a testimony. Each comment becomes a stone in the altar of remembrance, proof that faith still breathes, that love still works. Subscribing isn't a transaction, it's a covenant. It means staying connected to the flow of light, joining a family of souls who refuse to let hope flicker out. And if generosity stirs in your chest, give not because you're asked, but because giving is how light multiplies. Picture your gift as a drop of oil poured on a lamp that keeps burning through the darkest hours. Every drop keeps this fire alive. Let this not be where the story ends. Let it be where the world begins to see what the chosen truly look like, hearts that carry both flame and faith. The journey continues through you. Keep walking, keep shining, keep becoming.